Welcome, it's Homemakers, late May, normally a time when things are growing like a rocket, but this year we've had unusually cold weather until very recently. Just today is the first super warm day. Got my shorts on, celebrating with a new t-shirt, and I want to show you how plants have coped with that unexpected weather conditions that have been actually quite challenging for cucumbers in particular, because cucumbers I find are one of the hardest vegetables just to get going. They're very sensitive to getting overwatered in their plastic pots, and that I think is what happened here. So I'm raising plants like this or a bit bigger, and this one hasn't been watered for 2 days, and yet you can see the compost is really moist and it's feeling heavy to me, and it should feel slightly light. So you know, that's a tip if you're still growing cucumbers in pots. Don't overwater them, because they suddenly go limp. And even today, we planted them on Monday. Well, it's not me because I was at the Chelsea show, but I left Adam and Sal doing it, Sam, and they did a great job of that. But I think the damage had been done before that. They got too wet. So some were looking like this and some more like that. Anyway, I'm just hoping they're going to all recover. And what we do from here is they're buried with the knotted string under the root ball, and then that just goes over here, and a very loose slip knot. Don't overcomplicate your knot. Literally just pull it through like that, and then there's spare string so that we can very quickly undo it. That's the beauty of a slip knot, and drop it down once the cucumbers hopefully get tall and ongoing. So for now we're watering them a little bit, but not too much at this stage. And same for everything else in here except the tomatoes. Actually, you can see how the aubergines are pretty small. I've put them and the melons on the hot side of the tunnel because this polytunnel it's not north-south. It would be better north-south, but because it's not north-south, it's got a hot side and a cooler side, and that's the hot side. And you can see how the melons are looking pretty happy. They've only been in the ground for 3 days, and marigolds dotted around. While the tomatoes, again, considering the night temperatures, in here it went down to 0.7 degrees centigrade, that's 33 Fahrenheit, very close to freezing, but they had fleece over it. And the beauty of having the garlic here is that supported the fleece, so the fleece was like a roof with the garlic in the apex middle bit. And wow, actually these tomatoes are better than where we had slightly warmer conditions and didn't bother to put a fleece on. So that's something else. Yeah, that's the beauty of gardening. There's something to learn all the time. The conditions change so much every year as well. This is cherry tomatoes, which tend to get away more quickly. That's beef tomatoes, and a good mixture along there with basil. Like in front there is Tulsi basil. Those little basil plants, you can see I'm putting them in pretty small. As long as we just keep them topped up with water, I find that's actually now better than trying to raise the bigger plant in the pot and put it out later. If they can get their roots down before it gets too summery, that's an advantage. And then we've got lemon basil is the next one, followed by Greek basil. That's with the very tiny leaves, so I let that grow into a mound and then cut it. And the last one is the more normal Genovese sweet basil, and they were all sown in early April, so they're not that old actually, around 7 weeks since they were sown. And here we have two endive to keep seed of endive. That's what I want to do. I love these frizzy endive, and if you can save your own seed, the vigor's more strong. These we picked through the winter in salad boxes, actually mushroom boxes, so it's really easy to pull them out and transplant them there about 2 weeks ago. Keep them watered. And endive, chicory, lettuce, they don't cross-pollinate. They just need one plant to save seed from. I'm doing 2 just because I had to, and will give us a few more seed hopefully. So they're for sowing, not yet, but more like in August. And then moving out here, well, we have a wonderful range of plants now. This morning we were very busy picking salad, like the lettuce, peas for shoots, and also vegetables for like Three Horseshoes pub particularly. This is interesting because it's not something I'd tried before. Sometimes in the spring I get impatient waiting for the first broccoli, or calabrese we call it, to come, which is these shoots here. That's just a small one. And what I tried last year was sowing these in September, planting them in October, and they had a flush. We've had pickings from this bed since March. It's been really good. Had mesh over in the winter. And now we're getting a second harvest coming. It's like, wow, there's a lot here. Look at that, you know, really nice little calabrese in the middle. So yeah, that they could be cropping for quite a while and not waiting for them to grow. A similar story a bit for the peas, where we were doing some compost trials to find the best potting mix, and as a result, to do that, it meant a really early sowing of peas. These were sown in late January, not these ones actually, but the ones further up, which is why they're so big already. It happened this year, we had a warm enough spring and they've grown really well. They had fleece over at first, and what that means is we're going to get a crop earlier when they're still, before it perhaps gets too hot. So sometimes there's a positive advantage to being early if the weather keeps up with you. Well, here the cabbage, they went in more normal time. That's Goldenacre, really reliable variety. They went in late March from sowing late February, and they had fleece over and then mesh. So quite a lot of use of covers to get these early crops. And likewise, the melons in the greenhouse, do you see how they're quite a bit bigger than the ones in the polytunnel? And I'm just about to start stringing them up because they're ready for that. Not all of them, but Emir and Malaga, two really good early varieties of melon. I think it's probably a bit late in the UK at least to sow melons now. You can still plant them. And in the greenhouse, I can show you a bit more of what's going on with the propagation, where it's actually quite a joy at this time of year how it empties out. What we can do here is take down, this is a temporary frame that we have just from March to May. Take it down, and then I'm growing watermelons there underneath. And I've still got these tomatoes ready to go. Too ready, really. I'm going to give a few away actually, but what I'm doing, especially with these ones more, is keeping them growing until I can plant them in the pyramid when that is ready, which should be within about 2 weeks, I hope. And here I just want to show you the garlic. So you can see a similar idea: tomatoes, basil, marigold, interplant. And this one in particular I was looking at, because of the way it's slightly falling over. It's not impossible because I walked on it a bit crossing the bed. But how do you know when the garlic is ready? You're not waiting for it to go yellow. You have a sort of rummage down there. Yeah, I can see there's quite a nice bulb. So it's early. I would say this garlic would grow some more, but if you want a sort of green, oh yeah, actually that's pretty nice. And what you can do then is sort of peel them off. I like to do this actually at picking time, because you can get the all the skin off the bulb and then take it in the kitchen without loads of mud on. Yeah, look at that. Really nice harvest. This is exciting. And actually what I'm seeing here is a bulb that's pretty well formed. So I'm thinking we'll harvest these garlic. Oh, it's 21st May today. We'll harvest them before the end of May anyway. So if you leave them in the ground, beyond this, the outer skin starts to rot on the bulb. You can see also we've got more plants here that I'm not actually going to use all of them, but I always want to have more plants than I need. And these leeks, these we've just potted them on. We start them in the small module trays. These are the ones I designed. And so that we sow leeks in those and then just pot them on like this into 7cm pots, and you can still do that. The advantage being you keep your leeks growing while waiting for whatever harvest it is. You know, they could follow spinach or carrots, or potatoes is classic one, early potatoes. Here we have the dig no dig beds. Really interesting always. People ask why I carry on with this experiment. I just find it fascinating. So dug bed, no dig, same compost in each bed. Harvest so far, 10.4 kilos no dig, 7.5 dig bed. At the moment now the plants, or certainly this end, they're looking quite similar. What we find with the lettuce though is interesting. The leaves look similar, but they actually weigh a bit more from the no dig. Peas here, this is peas for podding, Hurst green shaft. And up this end you can really see some differences. I'm not too sure why it's more strikingly different this end. But if you compare the onions as well, there's onions, spinach, carrots and kohlrabi on each bed. So it's the same plantings on each bed, put in at the same time, in this case mostly 9th of March with fleece over, and then we weigh all the harvests. And this morning I was picking spinach here, and the dig bed spinach has caught up at this point, but the total harvest so far is 2.4 kilos there and 3.7 there, so quite a bit more from the no dig. While the kohlrabi is just, whoa, blowing me away. Look at this, just fantastic. It's actually a variety called Quick Start. I'm pretty sure that's right. Now you see quite close. I removed some of the yellowing leaves, they just keep them looking nice. And just this afternoon, I sowed some Dwarf French bean right at the base of them, because I know that we're going to harvest them very soon. So that's one of these kind of grow together examples. That's the title of my new book. Do check it out. You can do that. You can invent your own combinations according to what you want to grow. The thing is to sow something in its right season, where you can see something's going to finish maybe within a month. That's the kind of golden principle, if you like. And there's many opportunities to do that, or use a bit of space like here. This sage is going to be huge salvia. I just popped in a few marigolds. I love to have marigolds at the ends of the beds because they just look so nice and they don't actually interfere too much with the vegetables. The only snag is, like here, this was frost damage. So some of them had fleece over because the vegetables had fleece over, and these ones missed out. But you see basically how we had quite a frost, and the same on the dahlias. Quite crispy there, but they're okay. Though I think the marigolds have had it, these are going to regrow. So I have sown some more marigolds now. You can still sow them. Dwarf French marigold, Tagetes patula, such a good little plant. And these kohlrabi, normally I reckon to start harvesting them in early June, but you know, middle of May we started here. They're proving very popular with the pub, and we sell them with the leaves actually, because the leaves are tasty as well. And I think they won't go on cropping for maybe not much more than 2 weeks. So we're going to start early, finish early, but then there's other plantings coming on. And while we're here, I want to show you the compost, because I don't often mention this. I mean, there's no secret to making good compost, except I wouldn't have a heap this big in a small garden. So, you know, match the size of your heap or bay to the size of your garden. So this one we started on the 6th of April. That's roughly 7 weeks nearly. But you can see it's getting up quite a decent heat, and things are rotting quite quickly. But heat doesn't happen unless you've got enough material to do that. I mean, this is grass that was Adam cut maybe only 10 days ago, and already it's looking quite composted, but it's also very gooey, and that's an issue I do find with this heap. It's because it's so big, can get a bit anaerobic in the middle. So we'd maybe put a bit more brown in this one than in the smaller pallet bays. And it will be turned into there, so we'll clear out this one. I turn my heaps just once, no more than that. It's much simpler. Here there's a lot going on, like new planting of courgettes about 3 weeks ago. 2.5 even, just before the frost and really cold weather. So they had fleece over. These are really sensitive to cold. If we hadn't covered these, they'd be history. Fortunately, they've survived. It was tight, it was close. And I just took the cover off 2 hours ago actually, because I saw they're looking a bit wilted under the cover. 2 hours ago, these two plants were almost flat on the ground, short of moisture. And now look at them, really perky. So again, we're heading for hot, dry weather. If you see your plants really suffering in the heat of the day, if you happen to be around, just give them a bit of water. It doesn't hurt to water in sunlight. That's another misunderstanding. And that's going to be the main thing to do from now on, just keep them moist enough, at least with the way the weather's going at the moment. These beds here are part of a 3-strip trial. And I know all the yields because part of the trial is we record all the harvests. Strip 1 is fork, strip 2 no dig, and strip 3 no dig with animal manure. And what I wanted to show you here was not only the amazing amount you can get from this area is about 63 square meters. Last year it gave over 600 kilos of food. So I hope that would inspire you to know that you can get so much from a small area by this, partly by repeat cropping. So actually that first bed there where there's courgettes, that's already given a large harvest of turnips, which finished, and on the very same day they finished, we put in those courgettes. That's the first harvest of lettuce. Here this morning we were harvesting the final harvest of spinach, apart from a few plants, most of them rising to flower, and there were 7 kilos this morning. It's given a lot. But what I noticed when planting these is, if you have a look at the soil, it's full of spinach roots. And I don't normally do this on a video because some people call it digging, but that's the kind of way I plant. I just make a little hole. You can still see quite a few of these little white roots. And I was planting some squash also up there, and the soil was not so fluffy. It felt a bit more dense. So that's where it actually can be really good to, have a preceding crop, as long as you've got enough moisture. That's also a limiting factor. So all these things need careful weighing up. With the broad beans, you can see they're not so strong in this bed compared to that bed. And this bed was forked. It's forked once a year, put in a fork, loose and aerate, a bit like broad forking. And over 10 years of trialling, this forked strip has given 7 or 8% less food. So throw away the fork. You don't need to do that. One job less. No dig is working so well. Here we have another frost damaged plant, and I only noticed this yesterday because I'm not so on it with my fruit as with the vegetables. But look at this. The poor old grapes are not looking strong. Dead tips to the leaves. I'm just hoping that the grape clusters lower down, they're looking a bit greener. We might well still be fine actually, because often they kind of make too many before they really start to swell up the fruit. Some of you might have a view on that. Feel free to put in the comments. I'm always really interested to read the comments on these videos because I learn from it, and we can swap notes. Whereas the currants, that's chuckleberry, is blackcurrant cross gooseberry, and you can see how they're swelling up nicely already. Last year they were incredible, and they're looking really good again. They get delightfully big, so larger than blackcurrants, and really good flavour that you can eat just on its own. Here there's an interesting thing with the artichokes. So I sowed these last February from seed, planted them early April last year. You can see them in the video we put up about how to grow artichokes, globe artichokes. And what I'm noticing this year is really surprising me actually. Look at the onions here. That is artichokes taking moisture. The roots, in other words, are travelling through the path into the onion bed. But it also makes a nice point how this path soil, I'm sorry there's an aeroplane, I'm just going to carry on there. Even though it's path soil and we're walking on it a lot, under the quite thin surface mulch is last year's mulch. And then under that, you can see how soft it is because I can just keep pushing it away with my fingers. We get into something that looks more like soil. And basically, it's used by plants, bigger plants particularly, in the case of these artichokes. So these artichokes will be using the path soil. So that's why it's worth looking after your path soil, not quite as much as the beds, but appreciating how it's part of your garden, part of how plants grow. And there's an incredible little history here of growth, because this is a 14-year-old asparagus bed. They can go on for decades. And I was wondering what would happen, because the crown started here. I planted a crown in December 2012. No dig on weeds, but with cow manure on top. And that was the original harvest, but it's getting bigger every year, and you see the circle now coming out. And you can see it on the other beds as well. And there was a crown here that didn't work, so that's been quite empty for a long time. But gradually the crowns near to it, either side, are sort of exploring that soil. So it's not wasted space in the end. If you plant asparagus, don't plant it too close, I would say. I know some people do. I would say 2 foot 60 centimeters between each plant. Look at this. This is elephant garlic, and just in the last few days, this is the scape, just like you get on hardneck garlic. Elephant garlic is a kind of hardneck, very edible, tasty, and we are kind of in the hungry gap now, although there's lots to eat here for sure. But if you've got these, harvest them and enjoy them. They're really tasty. And then, you know, that also kind of encourages the garlics as well below. Here's more squash I planted, and they're quite variable size, and that was, for some reason, the butternuts. I always struggle a bit with butternuts. They need more heat than we normally have here in the summer. The level of heat we're having now is highly unusual. But further up there's uchiki curry and crown prince, which are bigger. And more cucurbit here, which is courgette planted between garlic. And I wasn't planning to do this. This is where it's helpful sometimes to have more plants than you think you'll need. The reason is because you can see we also planted beetroot between the garlic. And then what I noticed was, wow, the rabbits really got in here. So that's a rabbit-eaten beetroot that's clearly much smaller. I'm thinking the beetroot, it'll do what it'll do, but up that end there's hardly any beetroot. The rabbits come in from that end. I could have covered them, but I didn't really want to put a cover over the garlic, so it's a slight drawback sometimes with interplanting, but we did put a cover on to protect the courgettes from frost, and that really paid off. So again, that cover just came off a few days ago. While here we have another interesting thing about tree roots in this case. So that quite small apple tree, which is 20 years old now, and it's on an M27 rootstock, the smallest one you can get, but it's rooting quite a long way. And that's what's happening here. Do you see how these strawberries are quite a bit smaller than the ones further away from the tree? So these are ever-bearing strawberries, which will crop, well, sooner rather than later. Sooner than normal, that's for sure. That's a penstemon there. I'll just mention that because, again, just a nice example of flowers at the ends of the beds. While here, not many of you will have seen this, and I don't do it often, is more strawberries. And these I grew from seed. So that strawberry seed sown late February, pricked out into the modules and transplanted from small modules in April. And I'm just pulling out a weed here. It's just reflex action. But I'm not seeing too many weeds, thank goodness. Just on weeding, you'll notice there aren't many weeds here. Well, that's partly because we're on it, and either hand weeding the medium-sized ones or hoeing the little ones. Not actually spending a huge amount of time on it, because with no dig, it gives you that wonderful chance. Actually, this could probably come off now. I'll leave that off. The wonderful opportunity to, you're not disturbing soil. You just don't get so many weeds. Here we tried to grow mushrooms. That wasn't a great success, and putting fresh wood chip on really slowed the raspberries down. But actually now they're recovering and looking pretty strong. So there's many good things going on. And over here there's an amazing plant, the poppy, Oriental poppy. I can't remember the name of the variety or cultivar, but it's been here for so long. This is its 9th year, and usually in June, early June, this year a little bit earlier in late May, it just highlights this part of the garden. And just beyond that you can see sweetcorn, which, corn for sweetcorn, again we planted just before the frost, so it had fleece over. You can see I haven't removed the hoops yet, and it survived. That's the main thing. And you might say, why am I planting it so early, you know, going through all that? Partly because then when you have weather like this, it's already got its roots down and it's going to grow like a rocket. Whereas when you transplant now, you actually got to be pretty careful to keep the new plantings moist. If you're in the UK, that's certainly a factor over the coming 10 days, even 2 weeks actually. I don't think it's going to rain much, so if you're putting new plants in, we'll keep coming back to them every 2 days, maybe for about a week, until they're really established. And to finish the video, I'll mention maybe 2 things actually. One is you can just see still the pyramid. It hasn't progressed very far in terms of construction because the joiner has had other jobs to do, but he's starting on Monday big time. He's hoping he'll finish it in 10 days, so it will definitely be there when we do another tour. I'm really excited about that, both what I can grow in there and the energy it will create. And I'm still debating where to put it, but I'm being given a sauna actually, and I love saunas. I've never really made time to have one myself much, but we're going to put a sauna somewhere there probably, so we'll see that also in the next video. Just finally, I'm giving a talk at Grow Urban Festival in London. It's a brilliant festival run by Sal Cheba, 12th of June. We'll go to my website, you'll find the link, and I hope to see you there or anywhere else where I'm out and about or courses here as we go through the summer.